Some of the greatest accomplishments that we've noticed are the increased common language focused on instruction, and we've also seen increased student achievement that I actually can document with data. I was so excited this year because it was our second year using CAR, and I'll take one grade level in particular. The grade is kindergarten, and we have really struggled in my previous school district. It was a half-day program, and our demographics were changing. Many of our students were arriving to school, and they weren't prepared for kindergarten. Those readiness skills to challenge all of the higher level curriculum was not there. So over a series of years, we were noticing that actually our student performance was decreasing. And obviously that's a significant concern. So 2 years ago, we began the implementation of CAR. And last year, we cut that decline in half. And even though that's still not great, I was excited. However, this year, they had regular PLC meetings, focused, had set norms, had agendas, and really talked about teaching and learning. And as a result, the kids started kindergarten this year 10% lower than they ever had. However, we made growth beyond what we ever had, and actually they ended for the first time in many years higher than they did when they entered. So they outperformed every other previous grade just with having 2 years of CAR. Viable curriculum is essential in teaching and learning. You have to have aligned horizontally, vertically, strong curriculum in order to support student achievement. And that doesn't just mean that every 5 years you write curriculum, stick it on a shelf in a pretty binder, and never visit again. What you need to have regarding curriculum is that it is ongoing. You are continually evaluating it. And that's all done through the CAR framework and professional learning communities. Because when we buy programs, for example, and the programs say they're aligned to whatever standard, they're not aligned to the standard. There may be one question that is aligned to a standard. So they can say, we're compliant. However, the level of questioning, the structure, the depth of knowledge you're trying to achieve, you're not going to get that just by buying a curricular program and implementing it. You're actually going to have to spend time talking, digging deep, talking about modifications for classrooms, talking about higher level thinking. So those are all the things that are important for curriculum. Before the implementation of CAR, we said we had PLCs. However, many of our PLCs actually focused on Beach Day, the assembly organization, sometimes what Spirit Week we were going to have. But the true focus on student achievement and learning was not at the center. As a result, we have changed our structure. We now have organized meetings. We have agendas. We have norms. And why I'm saying norms, it's because that's one of the essential components, because one of the elements that CAR brings is how to talk to one another. Lots of times conversations with teachers, they get, sometimes differences of opinion can bring about conflict, and it's hard to manage. And all the teachers have the best interest of the students at heart. They just are all coming from different experiences and perceptions. So this helped focus the conversation, respect other people's voice, and really keep that student achievement end goal. What do I want the students to learn? How do I know they learned it? And what are we going to do in order to get there? So that's how it changed. Teachers are definitely empowered through this process of CAR to become leaders within their own grade level, leaders within the district, especially in the area of curriculum. We have leaders in our buildings that sometimes are very quiet. This actually gives us a structure and a format for people to feel more comfortable to step forward, to take that leadership role. But even through the conversation and development of priorities, of student achievement goals, through that, teacher leaders start to emerge. They feel more comfortable being able to take a responsibility and a task and run with it. And they know that because they're working together collaboratively, they're going to have the support of their colleagues, which is something that when teachers are originally working, they're concerned about. But this gives them that support and that network automatically built in. But you cannot have curriculum, develop curriculum, write curriculum without teacher voice. Teachers know what's going on in the classroom. Teachers know where the deficits are in the curriculum and where the deficits are in the vertical alignment. They know what they need to do to supplement and that they're already doing behind closed doors that isn't written in the curriculum. So you need to bring all those people together so that they're communicating, they're sharing, they're learning from one another. But this process actually brings out leader voices that you never knew existed in your buildings. That's one of the greatest parts. And they own it. We were working on standards-based report cards. The leadership was incredible and amazing, and the conversations were so exciting because they were truly focused on standards, what they meant, what the end goals were, and all of that was possible through implementing this process of working with teachers, teaching teachers and administrators how to lead within their own community network. Some of the leadership behaviors that I had to ensure were present during the implementation of CAR, regardless of whatever role I was serving in, is follow through. You have to first become knowledgeable, be able to share that knowledge with staff, and that means your administrative staff as well. Empower your administrative staff to become instructional leaders, but then follow through. It can't be something you present and walk away and not touch base on. You have to constantly keep coming back to it, keep coming back to it. Your administrators need to be as educated and provided with as much support as the teachers do because they're critical. The principals set the tone, the principals carry through, and it's not a course that they took in their principal program. So it's one of those things that at the administrative meetings, you're touching base on it. You're holding a book club and continually going back to reference it, to talk about your observation practices and what you've learned and how you can carry that data into some of your PLC conversations. Even more than that, the higher the level of the administration, the more support is needed to encourage the principals and to provide time and respect for time for the principals to be involved in that process too. Some of the commitments as a leader that I had to make definitely revolved around the fact that it had to be a priority. It had to be a driving force. It had to be something that I was able to clearly communicate the value, the purpose, the reason. I had to commit myself to providing adequate training, which means we actually implemented the 3-day CAR training model, and I did it preschool to 12th grade. I did it entire district. I did not turnkey this in my district because I really wanted that message to be consistent. So I did bring it in for a school district with approximately 3,100 students, and we provided it for all the teachers. Then what we had to do to find that commitment was to make sure that we had resources. So we were looking at things like Solution Tree, and we were finding PLC resources, and we were reading Learning by Doing by DeFore and having conversations about it. Those were some of the things that we used regarding commitment. It's just something that you have to prioritize, and you have to stay focused and committed. And you have to read. So you have to continue your own ongoing learning. There are great books out there that you can use to support the PLC initiative. Some of the barriers that I faced during CAR training centered primarily on the element of time. I always joke with people that at the bottom of our contracts in fine print it says you will never have enough time, because there isn't time. So we have to look creatively at scheduling. So for example, some school districts are able to schedule common planning times for teachers. I had 10 and 11 teachers in a grade level. Common planning time was not an option. We also had contractual 45-minute lunch periods, and we also had limited time during faculty meetings. So we really had to get creative. So what we did was we changed the faculty meetings to instructional meetings. We also extended some flex creative options that we could implement with teachers. And if they stayed certain times, then perhaps we could allow a late arrival or something along those lines. What we also found was, though, once teachers learn the importance and the value of this conversation, it starts to happen naturally. So our regular meeting times during faculty meetings then extended to every other week. What we also did was we had to implement half days into our calendar year because we had limited time for in-service and professional development, but that time for teachers had to be provided. So once a month we had a half day in service where the second half of the day the teachers could use that time to talk collaboratively. But again, it started there, but then it grew into teachers finding the time to have those conversations. So it actually ended up being more time than we had originally allotted. The responsibility of curriculum ultimately falls on the superintendent. The superintendent is expected to be an instructional leader, and it is the superintendent's recommendations to the board to approve curriculum. So therefore, I definitely feel that a superintendent needs to be knowledgeable. However, it's not just the superintendent. It's everyone's responsibility. It's the principal's responsibility. Principals are instructional leaders. They have to know what's going on in the building, how to talk to teachers about what they're teaching, understand the standards and be able to explain the standards to teachers, model how to unpack standards. But then it's the teacher's responsibility because the teachers need to be able to do the same thing and communicate that. It's also the board's responsibility because the board needs to approve the curriculum, but they also need to be able to support the dedication of the resources in the school district so that all of these things can be done. And when I say responsibility of the entire school district, that leads into sharing that information with your community, with the parents, to help them understand what's actually happening in your buildings, why it's happening, and what the ultimate outcomes and benefits for their children are.